Welcome back, y'all. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and we're your hosts, Bull and Pete. We got started a little bit late today, had some technical difficulties coming in, but thank y'all so much for joining us. Please do make sure to like and subscribe whenever you get in. So today, I want to talk about something that we've been seeing on social media, on message boards and everything else. People are talking about, are we rotating in too many guys? And I think that this was really sparked up because we look at Omar Norman-Lott. I'm going to show you how much he played compared to everybody else. But you look at how much he played, and then you're looking and seeing, okay, well, he's about to be, potentially a first-round draft pick. And people are wondering, well, why didn't he play more? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, are we doing too much? Are we rotating in too much up front? Because we know that Coach G likes to rotate in as many people as possible. Is it making sense? Or, maybe is he doing a little bit too much of it? Again, please do make sure to like and subscribe. So the first thing that I want to pull up here, and actually, I got to kind of be careful with this site, man, because they keep on I keep on getting these weird pop-ups and stuff. I don't know what's going on with it, but hopefully we can we might have to wait on that because it's not looking like it's going to let me pull that up. So let me pull this up for you first. Okay, so first and foremost, this is going to be how this is how Tennessee's rotation up front, and this is just with our ends. This is how it looked compared to the two teams that played in the national title. So we're going to come back to this here in just a minute, but first, let me show you just how Tennessee looked, right? So this is our entire defensive line. You can see, number one, with our Leos, James Pierce actually played more than anybody else on this team. So we all know he's going to be a first-round draft pick. And he played as many snaps like a first-round draft pick. So he played a ton. We could talk about, do we drop him in coverage too much? That's a whole different conversation. But you can also see to the right what their pressure rates were. So his pressure rate was 23.1. That's the best on this team. As you come on down to Joshua Joseph's 365 snaps, pressure rate was 13.2. Caleb Herring, 119 snaps, pressure rate was 7.4. These are all the players that rotated in for Tennessee and the other teams that we'll be looking at today with 100 snaps or more. So Tennessee rotated really about 4 or 5 guys at both of our ends, but these are the top 3. So as we come on down to strong side defensive end, we're looking at Don Bailey, who got the most snaps, 416, almost double what Jason Jenkins and Tyree West got. Looking at his pressure rate, it's pretty good. It's at 10.8. But if you skip on down to Tyree West, who only got 201 snaps, he's at 16.7%. And guys, look, we both get it. Like, we know that it's not just about the pressure rates, but really there's a very strong correlation to how well these guys played versus the run to their pressure rate. We're seeing that Jason Jenkins, who got the second most snaps at strong side end, his pressure rate was only 3.6%. So, P, would you say that maybe that's the spot that Tennessee maybe could have made some changes at, or would you say Leo is 1-2?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think definitely that was something I noticed during the season is where's Tyree West? It seemed like they didn't really put him in enough. It seemed like every time he was in, he was making plays. He seemed to really have a good year for the most part, man. Like he popped off on the tape. He's a guy that you happen to notice because he was disruptive, man. He was in the backfield, whether it's run game, pass game. It's kind of a head scratcher as to why he didn't play more. And, you're quick to kind of go to the coaches try to look at it from the coach's perspective and say, well, this must be that he wasn't executing at the same level in practice or just whatever. It was they must have liked what Jason Jenkins was doing better for whatever reason. But when you look at the numbers and just the eye test from watching these games live, yeah, I think Tyree West should definitely play more. Don Bailey was solid. I thought Jason Jenkins was solid. I'm surprised to see his pressure rate was that low, but I thought he was solid as well. And then I think we did a pretty good job rotating the Leos too, man. I think there were some games where Joshua Josephs was kind of the hot guy, and he was giving a little bit more than James Pierce was sometimes. But I do think kind of that second question you asked, did we drop James into coverage a little too much? And I think we probably did. I mean, I know it's tempting because he's such a good athlete. He's so fluid in space. And you think about the Iowa game, that pick 6 he had. You're like, man, this guy can do it all. And so I do like how I moved him around and showed some versatility for him. But I think he's a guy, man. He's such an elite pass rusher. I think we should have utilized that more. And it seemed like there was critical moments where we were dropping him into coverage when, heck, we need to be sending him. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if they know. Like, let the offense commit more guys to stopping him and give somebody else a chance if that's what it is. But, let him do what he does best. And I think that's rush the passer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. So we are gonna finish up with this here in just a second, but I finally got this back up. And again, excuse all the pop-ups. I don't know what's going on because I do have a pop-up blocker, but for some reason it's getting through it. So this is from NFLDraftBuzz.com. I like this site just because it's gonna have all of our players. Let me see if I can get rid of some of these daggone pop-ups. But so I like this because it's gonna show all of our players. This is what they're basically it's just showing you who are the highest draft picks in this class for Tennessee. Up at the top, we see James Pierce, we see Dylan Sampson, and then at number 3, we see Omar Norman-Lott. Now, Omar Norman-Lott is going to be way above any of the other D linemen. So we've got Big O, who I've seen him, as a 7th round, 6th round draft pick, probably, maybe more of an undrafted free agent sort of a player. Same thing I would say with Big E, but you're seeing what the difference is. And this site is not, you kind of take some of the stuff on this site with a grain of salt, but I do think that just the order is correct. So Omar Norman-Lott being just a much more, I would say highly touted player on the next level. And now, as we pull this back up, now we're looking at, how do our tackles look? Okay, so we're seeing that Bryson Easton got the most snaps for us, 362. Big O got the second most, 321. And Bryson was, his pressure rate was at 9.4%. Big O, his pressure rate was at 6.6%, which is good for tackles. Tackles are not really about getting pressure. We're seeing that Jackson Moore got the 3rd most snaps with 246. Pressure rate was 4%. But Big O, okay, I'm sorry, but Omar Norman-Lott, okay, his pressure rate was 21.4%. That's the second best on this team behind James Pierce. Only 226 snaps. David Hobbs, 208 snaps, 8.4% pressure rate. And then we had Big E, who we all know is not a pass rusher. He had 187 snaps with less than a 1% pressure rate. But coming back to Omar Norman-Lott, P, how does this make sense that you've got a guy that can get after the passer like this? And we're going to pull up clips here of a whole bunch of different pressures and sacks and stuff from our team. A lot of it's going to be from Omar Norman-Lott. He had 6 sacks last season. James Pierce had 7.5 to 8 based off the site that you're looking at. But for him to be obviously our second best pass rusher, why do you think he wasn't playing more? And do you think that that's a problem?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a problem. I don't know why he wasn't playing more. The only thing that I could think would be that, because you hear people talk about the NFL and how it's more friendly for pass rushers because, like they have more freedom to kind of do different things, do different pass moves. Like they don't have to be as structurally sound. Like the guys that can get after it, they kind of let them do the thing. I think maybe in our system, Omar Norman-Lott, he has a repertoire of moves. Like he can do different things. Maybe he was not gap sound sometimes or something. Like maybe they didn't feel like he was necessarily like an every down type of guy. They just felt, hey, this big time 3rd down, this one will let him come in. But they didn't trust him as much as an Eason or Big O or even a Jackson Moy to really be that every down guy that they knew was going to be where he's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Now, I disagree with that because you turn on the freaking film and look at this guy. He's strong at the point of contact, has the quick twitch. We saw this on his film coming out of Arizona State, wherever he came from. Hey. Like, we saw it there. Like he's got everything you want, from an interior D lineman. So, I don't know why we didn't play him more. You look at him here. That's pretty sound. Like that's pretty disciplined. He didn't do anything crazy there. He just did his job. So, it kind of boggles my mind a little bit, as to why. Because he was for sure, in my opinion, the best D lineman on the whole team, and I would probably put him ahead of James Pierce in terms of just I felt him every single time he was in the game. You know what I mean? Like, and I know he wasn't in. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. But Coach G knows what he's doing, so there must be a reason, but I don't know what that reason could be.
Yeah, if you think about it, so he didn't play in the first half versus the Buckeyes. I think that was a huge issue, and we've talked about this several times. Like, dog, I don't know what he did, but if he didn't hurt nobody, if he didn't damage any properties, listen, even if you did, fine him, okay, fine him and say, hey, look, you're going to run a whole lot, but what you can't be doing no more these days is suspending the players from games, especially in playoff situations. You just can't do that because you're going to look like a daggum clown. Like, you're only hurting yourself, or you're hurting the whole team. You're hurting all the fans. Like, if you have a guy that is this good, you got to let him play. And, like I said earlier, this is just sacks and all that type of stuff from the entire team. But we're seeing a whole lot of Omar Norman-Lott flashing because that's just what he does. Like, that's just who he is. He is a just explosive playmaker. And, I've seen him as low as 2nd round on some sites, but most places have a 1st round draft grade on him. So whenever you got that type of talent, P, I think that you probably could have played him more, but we don't have to end it there because there's a couple of other things that we can look at that I do want to look at. I want to look, how did Tennessee compare to some other teams? So this right here is going to be Notre Dame's front. This is how they rotate. Now, what we're going to see, I think, for the most part, is there's going to be a pretty strong correlation to the pressure rate and the players that played the most. You're also not going to see now they actually rotate a pretty solid, a pretty solid number. But once we get to those Buckeyes, it's going to look totally different. So their top two, like they're starting to 467, 432 snaps. Again, we will look at the full chart, to look at all these numbers side by side. There's some pretty decent pressure rates there. Obviously, they've got within their starting two is going to be one of the best pressure rates. And then, they've got three other guys here with some pretty solid pressure rates. Actually, the best pressure rate for them was from Boubacar, who only had 133 snaps. Now, situations like that, that's a little bit different because he was playing more in mop-up duty. If you're playing more in mop-up duty, and especially, Notre Dame's schedule, they played up against a whole bunch of scrubs. You're playing up against really bad teams, you'll probably have a tendency to have a much higher pass rush rate. So I think that that's one of those situations. Not to say that he's not a good player, but was it consistent? Was it consistent versus the real dogs? I don't think that you could say that there. Now, let's take a look at their tackles. Pretty much the exact same thing here, right? They've got two guys. They got the large bulk of their snaps, okay, playing at tackle. Then they had one other guy that, I would say rotated in pretty frequently. Once you get down to about 300 snaps, especially as long as their season was, that's a guy that didn't, he didn't rotate in that much. And then you've got a player that only rotated in 106 snaps. Again, think about how long they played 17, 18 games or something like that. So that's not really rotating in as much as you might think. Really high pressure right there. But I just wanted to kind of show what the correlation is here. And also, you're going to see that they had five guys that rotated in at end, five guys that rotated in at tackle. Tennessee's going to have six for both. Now, let's go on to the Buckeyes. Let's take a look at that real quick. All right, so on this one, we're seeing it's totally different, right? So their two starting ends, over 600 snaps. I mean, they barely rotated, right? Like they didn't even want to rotate. Now, what does look really good here, P, is that all of their ends have double-digit pass rush ratio. So that it wasn't like that throughout the entire season. So I'm telling you, there was a totally different team. I think most of us know that. But once it hit playoff time, some sort of a flip switch, and they just look totally different. But you're seeing that, their two starters got twice as much, as the next highest person right there, Jackson, and then, just a couple other players that barely rotated in at end for them. Now, if you look at their tackle snaps, again, this is going to be the exact same thing where they have five that rotated in at end with over 100 snaps. They had five at tackle with over 100 snaps as well. And it's pretty much the exact same thing here. Actually, their tackles rotated less. Tennessee's tackles rotated in a lot. Like we're telling you that we're only showing you the players with 100 or more snaps, but Tennessee still rotated in more guys than really any of these teams. So what does this right here tell you, Pete? Just in kind of looking at these two different teams, is there anything that kind of stands out to you with the way that they're doing, with how they're, moving guys in and, bringing guys out compared to what Tennessee did?
Yeah. I was just thinking, as to why, because clearly they're letting the best players get the bulk of the snaps. There's clearly like a first tier and a second tier. With us, it seems like it's a lot more even, a lot more situational. It's just I don't want to say it's not a rhyme or reason, but it definitely seems like there's a much more concerted effort to try to keep guys fresh. And so I say, well, why? If Ohio State can go out there and do it, Notre Dame can do it. Why can't we trust our bigs to play more, to handle more snaps? And I think it might have to do with the offense. I think that we kind of tried to adapt, since Heupel's been there. How do we move with such a fast tempo and still try to have a good defense, keep defense fresh? I think maybe that really goes into Coach G's mind. Like, hey, we're getting these 30-second 3-and-outs or whatever. These guys are back out there. So I think he's been trying to rotate more and just kind of keep a fresh line out there at all times, as opposed to, like you see, they got 2D tackles. They got one over 600 snaps, so another one almost has 600 snaps. Like, our guys are nowhere near that. You know what I mean? Like, we're at half those numbers from our top guys. So I think it does have to do with the offense kind of influencing the way Coach G approaches that D-line room and just want to keep guys fresh. Is really the first thing that really pops out to me as to why, we're not trusting guys. And I think we have some good guys too. I mean, heck, who you going to give all the snaps to? Big O, Eason, Big E, Omar Norman-Lott. I mean, we do have a lot of guys, so it's kind of a double-edged sword a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably what the biggest thing is that we do this. We have so many players that you have to get them in. You have to rotate them. I don't think that us rotating in as much as we do, I don't think that that's the problem. I think that it, for me, if there is anything, and actually first, let me get to my dog, Timmy G, right here saying, what's going on, guys? Hope that you're having a great day. Tim, thank you always, as always, for joining us. Hope that you're having a great weekend. But yeah, I would say that for me, one of the biggest things is just that I think that we need to find a way to get our best players in the game more. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of where I'm at. And actually, let's go ahead and pull this back up. So this is going to be our ends, right? Or this is everybody's ends of the three teams that we're talking about today. This is their snap count. This is their pressure rates. It's all side by side. For Tennessee, I've got the Leos. I've got them all at top 3. And then I've got the strong side ends on the bottom 6 just to kind of keep that close enough so that y'all can kind of see what the difference is there. But yeah, I mean, you're looking here and you're just not seeing. I mean, here I would say it's kind of close as far as the snap counts. Obviously, if you look at those Buckeyes, we don't have anywhere near those like 700 snaps. That's crazy. Again, they did play 3 more games than us, so the average might look a little bit better. But if you come on over here to tackle, this is where my biggest issue is. Looking at Omar Norman-Lott, right? His pressure rate at 21.4%. He should have been starting. Like, I think that he could have probably started over Bryson Eason. He's a first round, but he's a potential first round draft pick. He's got a first round grade pretty much everywhere. It just, will teams like his off the field stuff? I think that some teams will like his off the field stuff, and it'll make them want to draft him. But I think that he definitely could have played a lot more. I get it. He was, he had some off the field issues that kept him out of a couple of quarters here and there. Even still, you got to force him out there. You got to do that. And then I think that whenever you can start off with really good players, you're stopping offenses early on in football games. I think that could make a bigger difference and a bigger impact on how the game is played with the offense, defense, special teams over the course of a 60-minute game. So that's definitely where I'm at with it. Now, I also want to talk about the poll that we do have up. Just asking y'all, what do you think? Is Tennessee rotating too much on our D line? And we've got 38% saying yes, and 62% now is saying no. So I think that a lot of us are on the same page. It doesn't feel like we're doing too much rotating, but if it's me, I would say that, moving forward next season, I want to see us try to implement, a little bit more of, hey, these are our guys, and this is who's going to get the bulk of the snap. See what I'm saying, Pete?
Yeah, and I would love to see more Elijah Simmons. Now, I understand he's a bigger guy, and he's more of a situational, like you put him in and run downs. But I mean, I just love the way he plays, man. He's so strong, so quick off the ball. Like, I think we could use him more. And for him to have the absolute least amount of snaps, I mean,
that's great.
I get it. We have so many guys, but dang, for him to only have 187, like he had like 30 less than Hobbs, something crazy like that. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. I'm not quite sure what all goes into how they rotate. Oh, there's my guy Jordan Burns there flashing. He's gonna be
yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, Burns is gonna be a major problem. But yeah, so that's another thing too, because when I was looking at how Big E got barely any snaps, I think that a lot of that might be because he's about 350 pounds. But Tennessee doesn't have that coming up this season. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have anybody that's gonna be anywhere near that size. At least I don't think we do. We might have somebody that I mean, I think maybe Wallace might be able to get up to 335 or something for you, maybe. But I think that that's something that Tennessee is gonna miss. You know what I mean? So I think that we maybe could have rotated him in some more, just a little bit. David Hobbs is good that he got more snaps because he's going to have to play a lot for us this season. Let me see what Tim's saying. He's saying that he thinks that the tempo offense makes them rotate a lot for sure. Tim, I think that that's an excellent point. Running tempo, you got to keep guys fresh. Again, for me, it's not about rotating in too much. It's about who's your starters. See what I'm saying? Like, who's coming in first? Yeah. That's where, because whoever's coming in first is getting more snaps. I think that's a better way for me to say it. It's not about rotating too much. It's about your best player should be getting the bulk of the snaps. That's, to me, is kind of like what the issue is.
And I think you should even, situational, dude. Like, heck, like, I don't feel like necessarily like last year Hobbs and Moy should have been in like a crunch time situation. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you get them in, but this, hey, fourth quarter, It's freaking 4th and 1. We got to get this stop. Make sure you have your best two on the inside. Like get your best guy situation. I think that's something we could have done a better job of as well.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000,000%. And so this right here, what y'all looking at, this is going to be the blue chip ratio for our front seven next season. And I'm glad that this comment just came up because this is where I was going with it. So this is coming from Anonymous Trucker. He's saying, who's your starting four next year? I got left to right on D-line, Tyree West, Jackson Moore, Bryson Eason, Joshua Josephs. Yeah, I think that makes sense. You know what I mean? I think that Tyree West definitely needs to be starting. I think that he probably should have been starting last season. But we'll see because Don Bailey started over him last year. Will he hold on to his starting spot? P, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to bet on Don Bailey starting. Now, I think the question is, because I know we heard some rumors about Dom potentially moving inside, which, I don't know. Really, that may have been more predicated on if Eason was leaving or staying. But if he's coming back, Dom probably stays. And I think he's going to be the starter because like I said, he was a starter last year and didn't really do anything to lose the job. Now, and Tyree West, I mean, heck, he had less snaps than Jenkins. So he was number 3 really on the guys who really rotated. So, will they allow him to make that jump? I think he probably is the best guy in that room based on what we saw from last year. But Don Bailey, veteran, been here, was 5th, 6th-year guy. He'll probably get the nod. I'll probably say I'd bet Don Bailey, Eason, Moy, and then, Josh Josephs. But Jordan Ross, Jordan Ross, Caleb Herring. I think it's going to be an interesting battle. But, I had to bet on Josh Josephs, probably be the guy. So, same as him, but just I would have probably Don Bailey instead of Tyree West.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think we're also all on the same page that Tyree West really looks like the much better end. I mean, he got a lot more pressure, like we just looked at those pressure rates, but also I think versus the run, he made a lot more plays. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't think of him really ever losing any reps. I mean, I'm sure that he lost some, but it's hard for me. I can think about Don Bailey losing several. Maybe it's because he played more, so it sticks out. But I can think about him losing some. So I mean, I would love to see, if things are done fairly. I think that Tyree West should get the bulk of the snaps. We just saw that if we're talking about over 100 snaps, it's probably going to be the top 3. So then we got Don Bailey, and then we've got Tyree Weathersby, who I like a whole lot. I really think that Tyree and Tyree should probably be the starting 2. If you could slide Dom into tackle, then all of a sudden, I mean, you've got that looks really deep. That looks really, really good. Are there any of these younger guys that you think might be able to make some noise for us this season, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, that was my next thing. And I don't know, man, because we have so many veterans. I think you look at the strong side D end. I mean, we talk about what's our guy, freaking Marion Dye. Who, we'll see where they put him. Like you said, he's a guy who can play any of those positions up front, any of them. I think to me, strong side D end is just a more natural deal for him because he's already about 6'5.5", 270, which is, I mean, that's just perfect size. So, you put about 10 pounds of good weight on him, let him keep his speed. You got him at 6'5.5", maybe 6'6", 280. I mean, heck, running. He's probably running. I mean, I would be shocked if he's running anything above a 4.6. You know what I'm saying? If he's not running at least a 4.6, I'd be shocked. So, I mean, he's an absolute stud. Does he crack the rotation? Does he pass a Tyree Weathersby? Carson Gentle's a guy too that, I mean, people sleep on him because he's smaller. He's going to be probably, slower and everything. But he's strong as a bull. He's a guy if he ever gets a chance. So, I mean, we have a lot of depth in that room. Kellen Lindstrom, I think, will improve. Jaden Lofton. There's just so many bodies. We'll see how many of them we can keep. But I think Marion Dye is a guy that I would love to see crack the rotation somewhere. But I think probably the safest bet is Isaiah Campbell. Just got his 5th star. We've been talking about him. Big, long, strong arms. I think he gets into that rotation kind of similar to how Hobbs was last year, kind of that 5th or 6th guy off the bench. I think that's probably him. And then Charles House is a name that, I mean, heck, I think people forget about him all the time, but it's going to be between him and Isaiah Campbell, I think, as to who is most ready day one to help on the interior of that D-line for those freshmen. So I can see either of those 3 guys contributing this year for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let me get to a couple of these chats. From my dog right here, JPad86 saying driving back from ATL did a car repo FUTA.
Nice.
Yes, sir. Love to hear it. Love to see it. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. So from Keith Ward is saying it takes a minute. It takes a minute to get your groove going. Like a running back, pros don't rotate as much. Spend more on defensive backs. Go Big Orange.
Good point.
Excuse me. Yeah, I think that's true too, and that's another part of it, P, that we haven't even gotten to yet. But that's kind of my whole deal, man. Like pass rushers do need that time, because they have to set stuff up. That's something that we didn't see a whole lot with our guys up front. Was different pass rush moves. I think part of the reason for that is maybe they didn't play as much in some situations. Now, guys like Norman-Lott, he showed a lot of them. I mean, he showed, and that's part of the reason that he had so much pressure. But I love guys up front that have some sort of a second move. Like what just bothers me, what I can't understand is how the hell, like, why do you keep on doing the same thing?
Yeah.
Like how can't you do something different? I don't understand that. But so that is a really, really good point. I think that, in some of these bigger games, like let's let our guys eat some more. I know that we want to keep them fresh and all that, but maybe tone that down just a taste, so that the guys that deserve or that should be getting more snaps, get more snaps. And let's make sure that the players, even if we got to change, because we just talked about Don Bailey might get to start the season off. But then after that, if Tyree West is showing consistently that he's better, then that switch needs to be made. Like you need to make that change. That's something that we haven't really done. We need to start doing that. Like we've got to put the best players out there as often as possible. It can't be so much, hey, this person's older or they've been in the system longer or we trust them more. Maybe not so much a trust, but you understand, right, Pete?
And that's exactly kind of how we felt about the secondary for so long. We were like, man, we'll be happy when some of these older guys kind of get out of here because we felt like we had some young talent behind them. And now that's kind of why I'm excited about the offense. I mean, we had some of the same guys that were there. I'm ready for these new fresh receivers to get going. I kind of think similar with this defense. I mean, Dom Bailey's kind of one of those guys. We love Dom and he's good, but I think there's more potential behind him. I think like a Jaden Lofton, Marion Dye, these guys, upside is going to be, I think, a lot higher. So I kind of feel that way about several places up front. So we'll see if they can get those guys in. It's going to be tough though, because like I said, a Don Bailey, a Tyree Weathersby, those guys are probably just good enough to where they may not give the true freshman a chance unless they're just like the guy for South Carolina that they had, the freshman they had. If they're doing that type of stuff, I'd imagine that they'll put them in. But if they're not flashing like that, they'll probably just keep going with the status quo. You know what I'm saying?
Shoot, I'm gonna tell you something, man. I think that Jordan Ross, if he got that many snaps last season, probably would have looked just as good, if not better. But at the same time, I don't know. It's hard for me to say that Jordan Ross shouldn't have been playing more last season. As much as I love Caleb Herring, there is a world where I feel like maybe Jordan Ross could have got more snaps than him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because Jordan Ross is that, like, he's going to be incredible. I can't wait.
I don't know. I'm sure you went back and watched his snaps. I didn't go back and like watch his snaps on the All 22, but just watching them live, the things I saw of him, it seemed like he was a little too puffy. Like maybe he put on a little too much weight, and maybe the twitch wasn't quite there, like it probably should have been. I think this year he's going to be that guy, but I don't know. I think maybe Caleb Herring might have been ahead of him last year physically, but I think the upside for Jordan Ross, I think he'll be better than James Pierce for sure.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah. So actually, you know what? When I was watching film on Jordan Ross, I understand what you're saying, but he looked good. He looked really good moving around to me. But I understand what you're saying. Maybe it was close enough that Caleb Herring, he's been here longer. We're gonna throw him out there. And Caleb Herring did some really nice things too. Like it was a couple of times where I'm seeing him beating offensive linemen off the snap. Immediately beating them quick. I think that he needs to, from last season, right? I noticed that he didn't always know what to do in certain situations. So, kind of like the mental thing, which I know that he's going to have this season for sure, third year inside of the system. So he's going to be fine there, but that's another, that Leo room it's crazy deep again.
I tell you, freaking Caleb Herring, if he switches his number to 27, people are going to swear he's James Pierce. Like they look just alike. It's crazy how much like they look.
Yeah, like they movements and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, some of their movements do. So, but I think that's good. That just means that he's been working hard. He's been trying to emulate that, right? Like he's looking up to him. But yeah, I think that we're going to be fine. But I do want to see, I'm curious to see if the rotation kind of stays the way that it was last year. Again, if that happens, we're talking about, top three for the strong side DNs. Probably going to be Don Bailey, Tyree West, Tyree Weathersby. For the Leos, we're talking Josh Josephs, Jordan Ross, Caleb Herring. Marion Dow is going to get some burn somewhere for sure. And then, for the tackles, we rotated about 6 or 7. But if you're just talking about, if you're just talking about like the players that play the most, it would be the top 6. So that top 6 that I have, we said this to y'all several times, whoever gets that 6th spot is going to play for sure this season. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be Charles House? Is it going to be Wallace, or is it going to be Ethan Utley? Because I feel really good about that top 5. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel solid about that top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I like them a lot, man. And Nathan Robinson's got people sleep on him. Didn't get to see a ton of him last year, but man, big, strong guy. Looked awesome when he came in, and that kind of that heavy package on offense, was moving bodies. Mean. I mean, I'm freaking mean guy. I mean, he's mean, but he's a good mean. You know what I'm saying? He's a football mean. So I mean, I think he's gonna really exceed expectations from a lot of people. And if you're locked in this channel, you're not gonna be shocked when it happens, because we've been telling you guys all off season. But yeah, man, I think the order you have it in, that's the order. We'll see if Jamal Wallace takes that step. We'll see, because he has some athleticism and he shows some quick twitch. How consistent can he be? Can he learn to strain and take a little more seriously? But I think that top 6 you have is probably the way I see it kind of playing out.
Yeah. So should be straight, but I would say that just to kind of end this whole thing off, I'm gonna tell y'all first what I think, P, and then you could tell everybody what you think, and then we're gonna get back to the final poll. But for me, I would say that it's not that Tennessee's rotating too much up front. We just have to rotate the right people. We need to have the right people out there starting. That's my only holdup. And I would also say that in some of the bigger games, maybe rotate a little bit less. Let your guys eat. Let them cook. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would say. But Pete, what would you say?
Yeah, I'd say same thing. I mean, the rotation is fine, but it's so many mouths to feed. I mean, is it almost too many mouths to feed? I don't know. But yeah, man, like we've got to build a better rapport for those starters, for the main guys. You got to have your best 2. They can't all be exactly even. So who your best 2? They aim to get the most reps. And maybe have some more situational guys, like, hey, maybe Jackson Moy and Isaiah Campbell, for example, will say maybe these are our pass rush guys. These guys come into pass rush. In your run stopper, maybe that's Charles House, and maybe that's Nathan Robinson. You know what I mean? Like, just get more situational, do a better job of the situations. And I think we'll be fine, man. But it's going to be interesting to see, because there's so many bodies, so many guys I think deserve to play. And so how do they rotate it? We'll see. That's why they get paid the big bucks.
Yep, for sure. So the final poll right here is 57% of y'all are saying that no, Tennessee does not rotate our defensive line too much. And 42% are still saying, yes, we do rotate it too much. So thank you so much for joining us today. Just want to get a quick video out there for y'all, because we've seen so many people talking about it. Figured that y'all would be interested in this one, give y'all some real numbers and see how Tennessee stacks up compared to some of these other programs. But as always, y'all, please do make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. And we will see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.